It's been quite a day, not just for us. News-hungry people always looking at what's going to happen next. But when it comes to Twitter, the whole world is wondering what's going to happen next. So over the next few minutes, we're going to be decoding the Twitter takeover for you. What's been the story so far? And also try at least to get some answers to those questions that the world really is grappling over. You're going to be joined by experts who have take on policy, on usage, on what next, and also try to understand how media, in fact, should be looking at this Twitter takeover. Remember, we are one of the maximum or the biggest users there when it comes to this platform. So without any further ado, let's dive into what exactly is this Twitter takeover all about. Now, Elon Musk is officially the owner of Twitter. We thought we'll give you a quick glimpse into where it all really started, right? It all started when Musk had actually pitched the idea of launching a social media app because Twitter, he believed, didn't adhere to the basic principle of free speech. Cut to now, when Musk made up his mind and he now owns it completely. In fact, Twitter is to become a private company, at least so far. Things change quickly in this space. This takeover that we talk about might look like it was done quickly overnight, but it took quite some time. We've got a timeline there for you. It started in April of 2022 when Musk started accumulating his stake in Twitter, and it sort of murmurs came in, and a first public references and announcement was made that he does indeed have stake in Twitter. It soon was followed in almost a planned way by Parag, the CEO of Twitter, announcing that Musk will join the Twitter board. 5 days later, he came back on that and said he's not in fact joining the Twitter board. And before the dust could even settle on what exactly happened there, it became clear that Musk did not want to buy a small stake in the company. He wanted to own it. And then it came down to numbers. Now, for a lot of you watching this, you might look at Musk as the richest man on the planet. But remember, he's not exactly cash rich. And another round of internal discussion, some rather disgraceful public debates after it became clear that Musk had to give up a large portion of his personal wealth to actually acquire Twitter. Precise, the number is $44 billion, which is around 54.20 per share. And all of it is in cash, remember. A lot of back and forth happened there as well. Earlier in the month as well, Musk went on to purchase 9.2% stake in Twitter. This made him the second biggest shareholder in the company. The first one being Vanguard, which is about 10.3% stake there. So where does it leave Musk versus Twitter in the larger scheme of things as of now? Let's look at the valuations there. Now, Twitter's market valuation at the moment is about $37 billion, while Musk's is about $260 billion. And that should give you an idea of where things stand. In fact, the share hasn't been performing very well at the market as well. Now, as Monday has finally happened, US markets have also opened up. We wait to see how it will actually unfold over there. So that's the story so far, friends, right? This is what we know for sure actually happened. But the questions about what next for Twitter 2.0, many are calling it, well, Musk's Twitter, in fact. Some of them now going on, grappling about several unanswered questions. For example, what role will Musk play after the takeover? What happens to the existing management? What happens to Parag's team? Will Trump be back on Twitter? One of the most debated things on Twitter that's happening. All this conversation, ironically, happening on the platform itself. Will Jack, in fact, why did he, the founder of Twitter, support Musk in this? And frankly, what I really want to know is, why does he want to buy Twitter in the first place? What really happened there? Why is he so hell-bent on doing this and, in fact, has done it now? All these unanswered questions is what we'll pick up with our experts. On that note, let me introduce our panel. Joining us today is Chandra. Chandra Shrikant is the editor for tech startups at Money Control. Hi, Chandra. We've spent a full day debating about this meme, this answer, that answer. So I'm going to get started with you on how really are you seeing this story unfold. Joining us also is Apar Gupta. Apar is a Supreme Court lawyer, co-founder Internet Freedom Foundation. With us is Nikhil Pava from Media Nama. He has lots of opinions, I know, and I hope he will go on, without filters here, telling us how exactly he's seeing this unfold. Also with us is Arvind Gupta, head for Digital India Foundation. And joining us here in the studio is Sohini Guha-Roy. Sohini is the group head, Network 18 group head, audience growth. And with her, I'm very interested to understand how and what this will do really to media people and organizations like ours and how we look at Twitter altogether. Let me first just give the first round to Chandra. Chandra, lots of memes, lots of questions, but I want to know this from you first. Why do you think Elon Musk wanted to add Twitter to his cart? Why was he so hell-bent on it?
Your guess is as good as mine. But I think what I've really, what is really remarkable about the way this is unfolded, I think Zomato had probably the best meme. They said Elon Musk has acquired Twitter faster than, you can decide what to order on Zomato. And, that's the pace at which this has unfolded. Because with Elon Musk, you never know, is he serious? Is he joking? Is this, one big joke that he wanted to play? But, he ended up becoming a very serious contender. And so many people got their predictions wrong. From professors to market analysts, everyone said, the Twitter board should not consider this offer. Elon Musk is not serious. He will just do what he did the last time, he spoke about taking Tesla private. But, he's really shown that he has skin in the game. He's pledged a significant amount of his stock in Tesla to actually raise money for this. And if you look at it, Twitter, in terms of the amount of noise it generates is huge. But in terms of users, in terms of revenues, profitability, it's actually minuscule. So for Elon Musk to go out and pledge so much of his shares for Twitter is also something that people are talking about. And Jeff Bezos had an interesting take on whether this will make things complex for Tesla in China, because Tesla relies on China for a lot of its battery imports. So, will there be an indirect impact? It's again something that we have to wait and see. But we've actually been trying to figure out if this will really move the needle as far as India is concerned. Because in terms of users, yes, India is a very important market for all internet companies. But if you look at Twitter itself, I think they would have 23 to 24 million users. That's what Statista said in Jan 2022. I think Nikhil will have the updated numbers. And it's also not been big as far as, a market for monetization, etc. is concerned. And
but
Twitter
hold that thought, Chandra, when it comes to monetization and the whole revenue model, I think a lot of people don't understand really what is Twitter's revenue model. How do they make money?
It's a combination of ads, and they also have Twitter Blue, which is, their premium subscription service. It hasn't been rolled out in all markets, but, these are the two key revenue streams for them. So again, as I said, India, we don't know if the impact will be, I think it's going to be neutral. Nothing really will change. But I guess Nikhil and Apar and Arvind can weigh in on that, because at least with the government, it's had a very thorny relationship. If you look at the amount of if you look at the number of ministers, it's ended up blocking parties, it's ended up blocking. They've also fallen foul of IT rules in the past. So I'd love to get Nikhil, Apar, as well as Arvind's perspective on this.
Right. I want to go to Nikhil Pava then. Nikhil, we know, in fact, we're looking at this Twitter story unfold in two buckets, right? One is this entire policy angle. As Chandra also pointed out, Twitter has had like a very shaky relationship with governments across the world, not just India. There have been lots of parliamentary panels being called, closed door, and representations being made about why they should not ban Twitter, why other stuff should not happen. We've debated about these issues several times in the past as well. And then there is this other angle of how this takeover actually changes life for you and I, who are actively using Twitter today. Twitter in many ways, would be unfair to say, has changed the way reporting happens in the country. Long gone are the times when you would wait for a resignation letter or an announcement to come out through media or everything else. Now, ministers just put it out on Twitter, right? So in both these buckets, how do you see things changing?
Actually, Sonal, the part that I'm really interested in is how things change from a business model and a product perspective at Twitter, right? So Chandra mentioned a few instances of how Twitter monetizes with ads and with Blue, which is its subscription service, but it also has started a Patreon, like a payment like service where users can get paid by people for the work that they do on the platform. So Musk comes with a technology background. He thinks product more than he thinks people and social. So while there are concerns about how things might pan out from a speech perspective because he has a libertarian outlook, from a product perspective, I think there's a huge potential for monetization that Twitter can actually get into. For example, they used to have a video product called Wine. They had a streaming service as well. And there is potential for advertising and for monetization in that, but Twitter killed those models. They have Twitter Spaces, which is a competitor to Clubhouse. Again, there is potential for monetization there. So how Twitter evolves as a product, and they have made changes over the last year or so. That part is fascinating. From a politics perspective and from a free speech perspective, Twitter has always tread thin ice, and they've gotten into trouble with the Indian government in the past. Last year, the IT rules that came about. One of the reasons why that moved forward was also because Twitter refused to comply with an order because they felt some of the orders that were given to them in terms of blocking handles by the Indian government were not in line with Indian law. We don't know what they were trying to get, what the government was trying to get blocked, but Twitter pushed back, right? Because of that, you have the IT rules where the chief compliance officer at Twitter now has criminal liability, and so therefore they're more likely to comply. How does this play with Elon Musk's free speech libertarian approach, saying that on TED he went out and said that if there is speech that lies in a gray area, which means it's not incitement to violence, but it's hateful, it could be racism, it could be targeting a particular community, but not illegal, then he said that should be allowed to stay up. Musk in particular has a problem with spam and bots.
He also said that there is no revenue model there. He's not looking to make money through this takeover. That's why I keep coming back to this question. What does he want to do? Like you said that he wants to invest in the product. Is he going to make it more tech heavy, this AI ML heavy? What exactly do you think is going to happen? In fact, hold on to that. Apar, why don't you answer that question?
I'm a very poor person for forecasting what's in Elon Musk's mind. So let me just open with that, because I will discover something completely contrary. In fact, if you want to
like
do
the rest
something,
of us, Apar. Nobody knows.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but if you want him to do something, you should say the very opposite. That's what I've discovered, at least from his Twitter activity. But just coming back to it, the first thing is Twitter primarily is a private ad company. If you look at its disclosures and filings in the Securities Exchange Commission, and by itself, that ad basis is the fundamental basis how the product changes have occurred over a period of time. Over the past 1 year, as Nikhil was saying, it is trying to build out additional functionality and revenue streams. Chandra also pointed that out, but it remains an ad company. This has posed large amounts of problems with regard to people stating that it's selective about certain free speech. It moderates speech in a different way, but it remains an ad company. It wants high degrees of user engagement, you to spend a greater degree of time on their app and then use that data to show you ads or to monetize it. Largely, that's what social media is about. Now, if you also check the Securities Exchange Commission filings, you'll find that activist shareholders, even before Elon Musk, have been saying, please have a board seat reserved for a human rights expert, and Twitter has been voting it down, saying that we don't need anything like that. We think we apply our free speech standards fairly evenly in content moderation or how the algorithm does it. Here, I'd like to state that Musk has gone on record, and this has been supported by Jack Dorsey, that he's in favor of publicly releasing the algorithm, but I don't think so that it fixed most of the problems there. Because if you look at what Tesla's also done in the the past. It's fired an engineer who's reviewing the autopilot features on the Tesla cars. It or has a large plant and factory in China by itself. So I think ultimately what we are looking for in terms of clarity will only come through subsequently. But the final thing I'd just like to leave with is that this statement, which is repeatedly being said, that I'm in favor of free speech. Quite often, a lot of people who say they're in favor of free speech realize that there is a greater doctrine, democratic doctrine of free speech, in which there are exceptions, there are conditionalities, and there are sometimes very clear cases by itself. For instance, extremist content or non-consensual sexual imagery, for instance. So I'll stop here, but I'll say that he has his job cut out for him in terms of the idealistic vision he's posed in terms of taking Twitter 2.0 and in terms of implementing decisions which actually support free expression.
Right. Arvind, come in on this point on what exactly is freedom of speech and how Twitter understands it. I think it's Elon Musk's version and vision of it as well as of this moment. And also I want to come back on Jack Dorsey's role in this entire takeover, and I'll come to Chandra for that next. But Arvind, to you very quickly on which way you see this going now.
So, today's Elon Musk is different from 10 years ago, Elon Musk, when I used to know him well. And I can tell you one thing that, Par is right. Nobody can read what he's trying to do. His tweets even are cryptic, and sometimes you don't know whether he is high or low and how in what frame of mind he's tweeting. So, but having said that, I think, what has happened at Twitter is this is a reset. And being a technology person that Elon Musk is, a very product-driven person, he has other 3 investments that people know him for, Boring Company or for Tesla or SpaceX, but his other investments have been more in AI, which is what he has done a lot post PayPal. And that is, his expertise lies in that. And I think that's where he would be able to lend hands-on a lot of expertise into fixing a lot of fake news problems, spams, bots, and making this whole platform a lot more transparent. And nothing to take away that he will find ways to monetize it. Twitter is, whether it's a subscription-based monetization or anything else, any other business model they come up with, but it is going to be monetized. But the bigger point I want to make is, it's not now like Elon Musk will dictate how Twitter works from to India, for example. I have always said this, and I'm again going to repeat this. Big tech or technology platforms cannot be arbitrators of truth. Democracies have to prevail. The local laws of the land will again be supreme. So Elon Musk can have...
Arvind, but do you think this will change? This will change once it becomes a private company.
No, they can't. Whether it's a private or a public company, irrespective, when any platform operates in India, or any social media, SSMI as it's called, intermediary operates in India, they have to operate under certain rules. Just because it become a private company or a $50 billion public company, irrespective, they have to follow the rules of the land. And that will apply to India, that will apply to Singapore, that will apply to Middle East, that will apply to Europe and every other geography that they operate in. So it's not that just because it's become private, they will, the vision of Elon Musk is there, that they will suddenly become above the law. No, they won't, and they will still need to comply. The problem was, and that Nikhil also mentioned, is that they were coming they were actually coming into a confrontation a lot more with countries like India and many other countries, by the way, not just India. And I think that approach to understanding that there is a need for a free speech, transparent algorithm platform, and that those critics will go away once you make the algorithm transparent, but also respect the local laws, the local sensibilities, together with your overall approach.
Okay, so what I'm understanding from you is you believe the product and tech aspect will overcome a lot of problems that Twitter currently faces in some people's eyes, at least, right?
Well, you
think that is going to solve. But hold on to that thought, Arvind. I know Sohini hasn't spoken yet. Sohini, I really want to understand this. How are you, people who are responsible for engagement online, for networks like ours, media professionals like us as well. How are you anticipating? How are you bracing for impact on once this happens and there are new laws that come in, there are new ways of engagement and product ideas that come in? How are you prepping for it?
So see, of course, with Musk being in the picture, I mean, we can all anticipate a lot of tech changes, a lot of product changes, but at the same time, till things come into rolling, till things actually fall into place, it's going to take a while, because the takeover has just happened in principle, because it's going to take a few more months. But going forward, I think, of course, given what his vision is going to be for the platform, is going to, I think, further force a lot of media companies to think about their strategy into how they would want to invest in Twitter, like from a resource point of view. At the moment, a lot of news companies, like media publishers, they have a huge following on Twitter. But beyond that, I think one thing that I'm personally very interested in seeing, because of Musk rooting for his version of free speech, I'm really intrigued and interested in knowing how he plans to battle the misinformation debate, I think, that most platform companies are now tackling. So I think this is one important thing that I'm looking forward to.
Right. So you're saying the immediate impact on users like you and I might not happen on day one. It will take about a couple of months for us to get a clear go-ahead on what exactly the policy is and what happens next. But I just want to roll back really to the question of why. Why does he want to do this? And if we still have Chandra, I want to go back on that. So this clearly looks like it was an thought out or an impulse buy for Elon Musk, the richest man, just put like Twitter in his cart and said, okay, let's do this and that's going to happen. It clearly wasn't. A lot is at stake. His personal finances are also at stake with this takeover. And the most interesting aspect really was, Chandra, for me, Jack Dorsey's endorsement to this. How the Twitter board, in fact, is panned out. The maximum weightage now lies with Jack, and we are told on all the reports that came in, was the game changer.
So, I would love to read a backstory on what Jack Dorsey and Elon Musk were discussing in the last few weeks. But if you look at Jack Dorsey's thread, it clearly shows that, he's fully supportive of the way this has panned out. And in fact, he made a very strong statement. I think he said that in principle, I don't believe anyone should own or run Twitter. But Elon is, the guy who I trust with this. So, and he also said that, it's been owned so far by Wall Street and the ad model, but taking it back from Wall Street is the correct first step. So, that is his take. He said that ideally it should be a public protocol. It should not be owned or run by anyone. But if he trusts someone with Twitter, it is Elon Musk. Now, is Jack Dorsey really going to play a role going forward? We will have to wait and see. Did he have discussions with Elon on this? We will also have to wait and see. But I think what I found interesting is, on the one hand, everyone has been speculating on Parag Agrawal's exit. He also has a 43 million, I think, severance package if he exits within 12 months, or if he's asked to go within 12 months. But Jack Dorsey very clearly included Parag in his Twitter thread, saying that Parag also agrees with this, the guy who has been appointed as CEO after I left. So it'll be interesting to see the dynamic that plays out going forward, because Elon, he really cannot run Twitter full time. It is very exhausting, the amount of compliance involved, the compliance involved in various countries and geographies. And, we just did a graphic. He's running 6 companies, literally 6 companies valued at billions of dollars at the same time. How is he going to do Twitter full time? So, or is he just going to set the vision and allow Parag to execute? That's something that we have to wait and see. But Jack Dorsey clearly in full support in the way this has panned out. Nikhil, you want to come in on this?
Yeah. So, Chanda, just to add to what you were saying, Jack has had his run-ins with Twitter's board for years now, right? And he wanted to move Twitter to more of a user-controlled, decentralized approach, and it was the board that prevented him from doing that. Which is, if you look at it, when Jack has moved out, he's been supporting crypto, he's been focusing on blockchain. He believes in a decentralized Web3 world. Twitter started its Blue Sky project as well. So I think somewhere along the way, Jack is happy that there's not going to be any board. This board is going to get dissolved once Elon Musk takes over, and perhaps there'd be a board that would be more amenable to change to a more decentralized environment. One point about misinformation, disinformation, and spam and bots, to address that, Musk has gone on record to say that he believes that verification of users is one way of achieving this. And this is a worrying aspect because there are lots of vulnerable communities, people who would otherwise be targeted if their real names were online and visible, and somehow there was a potential for them to be doxed and attacked. And Twitter, from a free speech perspective, protecting pseudonymous behavior and anonymous behavior is also central to free speech, because it enables people to speak in an environment with courage where otherwise they would be attacked. So this verification thing, which I know I think there's some MPs in India that have also talked about Aadhaar verification for social media. It's a terrible idea. I don't want anyone to give social media platforms more data, especially IDs. But I hope Musk doesn't follow through with this verification thing. I think that will be a disaster.
Well, this and a lot more that Musk has already talked about, editing of your tweets. He talks about how there are going to be further changes on who all get to be. Twitter's favorite question right now, will Trump be back? Will several other people and ministers be back? All of these questions are still to be seen over there. But Apar, I just want to get your sense on this. Moving forward, like I said, on a policy point of view, does it bring in more clarity to have one powerful player on the board who's taking all calls? Or if you were somebody who were, talking about free speech and looking at how it's playing out at the India lens, right? On politicians saying one thing, Twitter board saying something else. With Trump, with Elon Musk now coming in, how do you see that changing?
So it's not peculiar for disproportionate voting rights and control to be vested in a sole founder in a social media company. We have one such instance, which is the Meta Facebook platform, which despite being publicly listed, has a separate class of shares which are reserved in favor of Mark Zuckerberg, and that give him the power to choose the direction of the company. Has that necessarily by itself, due to that nature of control being vested in an individual as opposed to a larger governance structure, resulted in the kind of social media we want? And the answer is a clear no. There are so many problems which manifest on Facebook, sometimes even more than on Twitter, right? So I would say the conversation which needs to happen, and unfortunately will be very tough to happen given the personality of Elon Musk, will be about the company, the principles, and how it will apply these principles of free speech. That is also because we have seen over a period of time, Mr. Elon Musk is prone to emotion-based calls which he takes within his companies, within what he does.
No,
now, that may work.
For me, the question is, what is his version of free speech to begin with? What does Elon Musk see as free speech? His idea of free speech could be getting everybody, putting out all sorts of content there. Nikhil wants to come in. Nikhil?
So Musk has gone on record to say that his idea of free speech is allowing someone you don't like to say something that you don't like, number one. And number two, he believes that if there's someone shouting fire in a theater, then that should be restricted. If there's a call to violence, that should be restricted. But any gray area, whether it's racism, whether it is harassment of some sort, he believes that should remain public as long as it's not illegal. So it shouldn't be moderated or taken down. So he has a more libertarian approach to free speech, although it's not entirely libertarian. That's his view on free speech.
Right. In fact, on that note, I'm told Manisha Maheshwari is also with us. He is the founder and CEO of Invact Metaversity and the former Twitter India head as well. Manish, great to have your inputs on what really is going to happen. Do you know something about what's going to happen that we don't yet, and you can shed some light on what to expect in the coming days?
Yeah, well, I think just so I started a disclaimer, I am not associated with Twitter right now. I'm speaking in my personal capacity. Yes. I run my own company where we do education. And I can only give you my interpretation because what you are learning from public media is what I'm also learning. My interpretation is based on my experience as well. So my view here is that clearly, this is a bit of an ideological and an influence buy for Elon. And Elon himself is a very avid user. And also, he is quite close to Jack. That's my read. And there was a change of guard late last year when Jack was pushed out of the company with the change in the activist investors, and so that sort of provides a way for their friendship to come together, and also for Elon to sort of take control. And there's also this whole dichotomy that has been existing in this company, saying that, oh, are we mission driven or are we a business? Because if you're a listed company, you are driven by the rules of the Wall Street, and you are supposed to have a P&L and profitability goals and revenue goals. On the other hand, the way internally the company is being positioned is that it's a company for free speech. It's a company that is mission driven, and I think profits, come after the purpose of solving for free speech. So when this company goes private, it gives the power and the leverage to someone who owns it to run the way it needs to be run to serve that mission and purpose, and not be guided by the rules of the Wall Street. Because as a private company, you can run the way you want to run it, within, of course, some guardrails. And my personal view is that Elon is dedicated to the idea of free speech. In fact, he's a very avid user. So we'll see more of that versus driving for the Wall Street metrics. And for me, I don't think he's buying it for a financial or economic gain, but he's buying it for power and influence. And also I also suspect that there could be some kind of a return for Jack in some capacity, because if you look at it publicly, Jack has been supporting Elon's bid to acquire Twitter. So clearly there is a lot of mutual respect and appreciation for each other between Jack and Elon.
Right, lots to unpack from what you've just said, Manish. This is what Elon Musk is doing for power and influence. Number two, this is not for profitability. This could be tied up with the mission that Jack Dorsey already has for Web 3.0. And this could be Elon's vision of Twitter, and this is where this is going moving forward. But having been in that company so far and seeing how it's unfolding, also getting a glimpse of Elon Musk like all of us do at the moment, that's the only thing possible. What do you think are the big concerns as Elon Musk comes in? And what do you think is the big aha moment that could be really revolutionizing the way we look at Twitter?
Yeah. So Elon has been taking active interest on Twitter, like both on and off Twitter as well. Like if you look at his own public presence, he is quite active on Twitter. Also with the employees, I mean, Jack has been inviting Elon to address employees, even when Jack was there. So in fact, 2 years ago, when we had this one team event in Texas where all the employees were there, Elon was only the one of the most important external speakers to come and address all the employees, right? So clearly, I mean, what I see change here is, I think Elon is a person with a very strong opinion, and also the pace at which he executes, I think the world has seen that. So clearly, I see that a lot more execution will happen. We will also see a lot more outcomes. Now, outcomes are not about business outcomes, about profitability, but outcomes in terms of user growth and also growing the profile of Twitter. He himself has publicly said that Twitter, in his view, is capable of far more things, and it has not achieved its true potential. So my view here would be, by true potential, he means how do we drive growth in terms of user base, in terms of influence, how to shape narrative even strongly, and how to be that public town square where discussions happen and where opinions are shaped. So I think he will play a lot bigger role there. Plus, without a distraction of the Wall Street, it would be much easier to do that, because in the current setup, it was not possible. So we'll see how that one unfolds. It would be seen as a welcome change by some employees, but also for the existing employees and maybe for the board, I think it might not be a change they may want to see so quickly happen. I think this would be a big change for the company and also for many employees. That's my view.
Right. So lots of good stuff over there, Manish, that I'm hearing from you. Lastly, take a guess. What next for Elon Musk? The meme world says it's going to be Amazon, the next thing that he will put in his kitty. What are you betting on Elon Musk's instincts?
I think, with Twitter, right? I mean, he had a very different perspective, which I think he may not be that close to other companies. So I don't think he will do anything else right away. I think we have to wait and watch. I mean, what his next move would be, particularly in terms of digesting this acquisition and then sort of figuring out how to run and operate it. And I think that's when we will have to, see how things transpire there. I don't see the Amazon thing that is floating around. There's any much substance. Again, my personal view here.
Right. All right. Thanks, Manish, so much for that. In fact, let me go around the panel very quickly and say, what next for Jack then? Nikhil, you can begin. For Elon Musk, sorry.
I think you're going to see that Elon, even if he's saying he's not doing this for money, he's going to double down on trying to make sure that Twitter makes money and becomes a good acquisition target for someone, or maybe an IPO later on. With Tesla, he put in many hard years, and I think it was in 2017 when he started really scaling the business to, producing 1 million cars a year, and that's what's made him the richest man in the world. I think I would say that there is a financial angle to this. You shouldn't discount that. Elon is too much of he's a founder. He's a business guy. He's not doing this just for free speech or for whatever he believes free speech
power
is.
and influence, as Manish says. Yeah.
Not
Abad,
just.
your thoughts?
I would just say that we need to be a little careful about what we understand about free speech. A lot of people who say free speech, I'm just repeating what I said initially, don't end up actually applying it. So let's watch out for that first.
Okay, Arvind, quick closing comment.
I would say that Twitter is going to be reset, a very strong product, much more tech-driven rather than ideology-driven. And lastly, I think I agree with Nikhil. It's going to be flipped into a very, very lucrative business, which either will IPO or go public again, or probably be packaged and sold off to somebody else. So it's going to be a good return on investment for Elon.
I see. Sohini, are you already thinking what to do next? Like, should we have accounts on Koo? How Koo is going to react? How other social media platforms are going to be taking this news? By the way, we did invite them for this panel and we wanted to get their point of view as well. But they said that they are not speaking on this matter just yet. Sohini.
So I think Elon Musk has already signed the deal. So I think he has to just brace for impact next. I think, of course, we can expect a lot of changes in terms of the product, as we've spoken, with his making it an open platform for algorithms. So all media publishers who are haunting other, chasing algorithms, like it'll be a good dive to see exactly what's in store and how does it perform. So I mean, yeah, I think with everyone else, I think even we are waiting to see how it unfolds in the next few months.
All right, how does it unfold? Will Twitter now become the bitter pill, as it is called? It will be bitter Twitter, as the meme world would like you to believe. What happens next to this space? Only perhaps Elon Musk knows. But we'll be tracking all those details right here on Money Control for you. Thank you all for joining us on this very fascinating discussion. That's all from us. We'll see you again very soon. This is Money Control. I'm Sonal Mehrotra Kapoor. Bye for now.